today's marketing, while it is so important, attribution, performance, data and analytics is so critical to the success of any marketing organization. You have to take a step back sometimes and like, okay, well, why are we here? Why are we doing this? Why does this matter? And a lot of it, goes back to, the advisor that's up at 11 o'clock at night, trying to get some paperwork done because he was bogged down in technology issues all day and couldn't meet with his clients. And it's simple moments like that. Like, okay, that's our why. That's why we do what we do every day.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Don't Do That podcast. I am your host, Kelly Waltrich, and I am here today with Molly McClure from Intelliflo. And I think that the universe was really messing with us trying to do this podcast. Every time we jumped on, we couldn't see each other's faces, then we couldn't hear each other. It's one of those things where you think everything goes perfectly, but behind the scenes, it's a little wacky. Today was one of those days, but we're excited to be here. Molly, welcome.
Oh, technology, right?
Oh my gosh.
Never fails.
Good thing we're both not in the business of technology, right?
Yeah, hey, so excited to be here.
Yeah. So I'm so glad to have you, especially because you are a marketer. And I haven't had a marketer on our podcast yet. I feel like we could probably talk all day. But let's just get started. Give everybody a little glimpse into who you are and into Intelliflo.
Yes, happy to. Yeah, definitely proud to say I'm a marketer. It's always great speaking to other marketers. We're on that same wavelength, which is really nice. Almost coming up on 20 years in marketing. So started my career at a small boutique consulting firm and had a great mentor kind of guide me in a direction I needed to go. And next thing I knew, I was in an MBA program and then moving to Austin, Texas to work for Dell in Round Rock, Texas, back in 2010. I started my career at Dell and I have been in corporate ever since. So I've spent almost my entire career in big corporations. Even Intelliflo is owned by Invesco. So we have a big behemoth behind a mid-sized company, which is nice. Yeah. But I would describe where I've been in marketing. There's a lot of different areas that you can play in. I've always been, I would say, frontline to the business, frontline to sales. So that's my sweet spot. That's where I like to be. You not only get to be creative and have a lot of fun, but there's also that accountability. You can see the benefit of all the great work that you and your team are doing. Obviously, if everything's working correctly and the analytics gods are on your side, then you can definitely prove and just see, hey, this is the value. This is why it works. So I'm happiest there, but I would say it, it definitely has its advantages and disadvantages.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about Intelliflo, about how things work where you're in the US and they're in the UK. I want to give everybody a glimpse into this world and, the products that you guys have brought to market in the US and how that's going.
Yeah, so before my time, I joined Intelliflo in 2022 from USAA, which is an insurance and financial services company for the military. Love our military. Give them a little shout out. And so Intelliflo originally started, though, in 2018. Invesco decided that they wanted to have a software division. So they went out and acquired five different companies. And Intelliflo, back then with a capital I, was based out of the UK. Very successful, very dominant player in the UK. They're basically like the Salesforce of the financial advisory software space in the United Kingdom. And my role in the US was to come in and essentially launch the marketing in the United States region. We were a big player, big name in the UK. Now it's time to get down to business in the US. So essentially, me and my team have come in and built a full-fledged lead generation machine. So everything from top of the funnel, videos, social medias, mid-funnel, emails, display ads, retargeting, all the way down to low funnel. So pay-per-click ads. So anything and everything that drives leads into the funnel, my team is touching and driving and making those strategic decisions for. But essentially, we went from nothing in the U.S. market to a full-fledged demand gen machine.
Awesome. And so tell the advisors that are listening what type of tools Intelliflo provides in the US, what they can come to you for.
So our biggest player in the U.S. market is called Intelliflo Red Black. That was one Red. It was originally called Red Black Software,
right?
And that was one of the acquisitions that Invesco made that turned into now Intelliflo lowercase I. So we had the original uppercase I in the UK.
Right?
Yeah, now we've sunset it. So we had a funeral for the uppercase I, and now it's all lowercase to fit with our approachable, down-to-earth, bold brand.
Yes.
So Intelliflo Red Black is rebalancing trading order management. So honestly, we make advisors' lives easier every day thanks to Intelliflo Red Black. It's super customizable, advanced, powerful. And honestly, our goal at the end of the day is to further advance access to financial advice. And then on top of that, let our advisors do what they do best and be with clients.
Yes.
We keep hearing statistics, advisors only spend about 60% of their time with clients. The rest is they're bogged down with administrative tasks. And so Intelliflo is here to help with that side of it. Obviously, technology can't do it all, but it is a big part of driving efficiencies and streamlining tasks so you can get back to what you actually want to do. And that's talk to clients, help clients improve their lives.
Especially in this market, right? Wild times.
Oh, phones have probably been ringing off the hook this week. So
it's been a week, that is for sure. To all the advisors out there slugging through it, we see you and we're here for you. That is for sure. It's been a wild one.
Roller coaster ride. You could definitely say that.
For sure. All right, Molly. So we're both marketers. What comes with marketing is some craziness, but also some fun. And I know that you love events. You love
what? Who told you that?
I don't know. You love branding. You love experiences. So before we get into the don't do that, give the audience a little bit of how you and I came to be, how we work together on some of this fun stuff, and why you love that as a big part of your role.
Absolutely. So yeah, one of the best parts about being in the U.S. market and Intelliflo is intentionally is our U.S. agency. So we have the best. And I was blessed to actually come in to my role as head of U.S. marketing and intentionally was already on board. So it honestly made my job so much easier because I just had a partner right away that not only understood marketing, but also understood financial technology, financial services, wealth management. And that's not always a space that everybody's dabbled in or understands. At the end of the day, good marketing is good marketing, but it's still nice to have somebody on your side right at the beginning of a role that just gets it.
Right. Yeah, we got lucky to work together. And so we focus with you on events, and we both love that. So guys, marketing is stressful. It is sometimes thankless, and it's the type of people who are good at it love a good challenge because they're constantly tossed at us all day long. But one of the highlights, I think, of our role, Molly, is that we get to do some fun stuff. We get to be really creative. And I think that you and your team have done a phenomenal job of that. So tell everybody a little bit about what that's looked like over the last couple of years.
Yeah, you're too kind. I definitely smile more when the event's over versus
fair
leading up to the event. So, but yeah, I have Erica from your team. So she definitely alleviates a lot of stress for me and my team. But yeah, so when I started at Intelliflo back in July of 2022, which is crazy to think I'm coming up on my 3-year anniversary this year. Time goes fast when you're having fun. We were about 7 weeks from the first ever Future Proof Festival. That was the inaugural year for Future Proof. It's
Yep.
first event, first of its kind. And I remember joining on my first day, my boss, our chief marketing officer, was like, "Oh yeah, we have this event in 7 weeks, and it's amazing. It's bold. It's different. It fits perfectly with the Intelliflo brand. It's in California. You have to come. You have to be there, and there's still a lot to do." So I didn't
Understatement.
really have any sort of like getting to know the company, slowly ramping. I was basically just shot out of an airplane without a parachute. But I learned a lot, and it was actually really nice career wise and new job wise to be out talking to people, talking to customers, our target market, prospects, advisors within 7-8 weeks of joining the company. That doesn't always happen. So it was really nice to just be boots on the ground so early. But so Future Proof Festival, shout out to Matt Middleton. He's the CEO of it all, the mastermind.
Yeah.
And so basically what they decided is, in a nutshell, wealth management events suck. You're
You
stuck
said it.
you're stuck inside, and you're in like this gymnasium, and feel free to edit that out if that's going to
Nope,
piss
I love
anybody
it.
off.
I think somebody had to say it.
But
Coffee is hard to find.
yes, yeah,
Breaks are yes, it's tough.
yeah,
It's tough.
the just the super bright lighting, and the hallways and the mazes of booths. And so basically they sat down, and I know he had a team behind him, and he had other investors involved as well. But they sat down and basically were like, okay, let's flip the script. It's time to do something different. So I don't know how they did it, but they went and must have had hundreds of thousands of meetings with the city of Huntington Beach, California. And they ended up convincing the city council there that, hey, we want to have a wealth management event directly on the boardwalk outside, literally like 15 feet from the ocean. I mean, 20 feet from the ocean. I mean, it's unheard of.
Right.
So they just took over the boardwalk. You can hear seagulls cawing like in the background of a speaking session, and the waves crashing. And now the first year was hot, so you obviously you can't control the weather. I remember like we were all like
Got a little
just like
sunburn.
chugging water,
Yeah.
record hot temperatures. You were there that year. But there's something that's something magical that happens. I know that's such a cliche way to describe it, but when you're in this chill environment, you're in the beach, you're in the sun, you're the sands nearby. It's almost like you can relax, and you can be more authentic and
Yeah.
connect with people, and you're not in your suit. You're not in this sort of stifling environment, and people just connect. It's an easy way for a community to come together.
Yeah. And so what I love best, I mean, everything that you said is just so true. And this is obviously not a podcast about future proof. I'm sure we'll do one of those in the future. But what I love
You see
best
Matt Middleton. Help us get a good booth
Matt,
spot
you're
again
next.
this year.
Um, so what I love best about that event is the branding. It gives companies an opportunity. Like let's be real. When you're in a normal conference environment, the playing field is kind of level, right? Because everybody has the same 10 by 10 space. Everybody has the same table, the same, it's all lots of the same stuff. You can put so much on the table in terms of swag. You can plan a dinner. It's just very vanilla. And then you get to future proof, and the branding opportunities are wild. And I think companies did such a phenomenal job of taking advantage of that opportunity. Don't you think? Aren't some of the things we've seen and some of the things that you got to do so cool compared to what you would do otherwise?
Oh, 100%. I mean, it's almost like I described it as keeping up with the Joneses, beach vibes wise.
Yes.
Every year, the marketers, the teams, behind all the booths and the branding are almost like, you're forced and you're pressured to come up with something better. Even
Yes.
if you knocked it out of the park the year before, it's like, okay, well, what are we going to do differently this year? And yeah, I have to say, I've had some interesting reactions to, I think everything that we've done has been incredibly cool at
Yeah.
Future Proof because like you, I love when I get to step away, from funnel conversion rates and,
Yeah.
pipeline reviews. And I actually get to brainstorm and come up with super creative ideas for a beach event in California. And so the second year that we were there, the first year was basically just like baptism by fire. We didn't really know what was going on. Everybody just kind of showed up and learned. And the good
Yeah.
news is we weren't the only ones that had a beginning there. Everybody sort of had to dip their toes in the water. But the second year, we're like, okay, how do we combine a beach event with technology? We knew we needed some sort of experience at our booth because when you're outside at a beach event, nobody's going to come by your booth if it's boring.
Right.
And so an experience we learned was the number one motivator to get someone to our booth. So okay, beach, technology, and I don't remember exactly how it happened, but I remember seeing that Billabong, the beach clothing brand, had an event, and at the event they had this surfboard simulator
Yep.
where you ride the surfboard, and then there was a game on screen where you could collect coins, and there was a leaderboard, and they gamified the surfing. And I remember having a discussion with my team, and Erica was like, "Is that too much?" Can we do that? Like, is that appropriate, for a professional, financial technology company to do? And
Yep.
I remember sharing the idea with my boss, and she's super bold and creative and loves to think differently. She was like, "That's perfect."
Yes.
So of course we branded it Intelliflo Blue, and Intelliflo has bright, bold colors, bright yellow, bright blue. And our design team did a really great job. They created this beautiful wave design with all of our colors. And just the second year, we finally had a booth that came alive, you could say. We
Yeah.
still had a lot to learn about what worked and didn't work, but the experience finally woke us up,
Yeah.
woke up the bear in a good way. And we had, record traffic that year because of the surfboard.
Yeah, that's amazing. I feel like, it's funny that you say like get away from the pipelines and the conversion rates and everything. It's super interesting the seat that I sit in at an agency now, um, where people are coming to me like wildfire trying to build lead gen engines without a brand baseline. And, it's interesting because I always grapple with, okay, do I do this for them? Do I work with them on this? Or do I make them or realize that they have to start elsewhere? Because it's so true. It's like all of a sudden we forgot that you have to be creative. All of a sudden we forgot that you have to tell stories. All of a sudden we forgot that you have to think outside the box and like your brand has to resonate with people. And so I have a lot of conversations, Molly, about what you just said, like remembering that you have to step outside of those things because at the end of the day, your brand propels all the rest of that forward, all of the lead generation forward. So you have to have a balance of both. And it's just wild. I will tell you, the clients and the fintechs that come to me on a daily basis that don't want to put any time, money, energy, or effort into the branding stuff. They just want their next lead. And that's not sustainable for long-term success. So I try to be open and honest about that, in the conversations, even though, we're an agency and we're supposed to just help people with what they need help with. I still at the end of the day sometimes grapple with that. And I think we owe that to future proof in terms of like you have no choice. You're not going to show up and look like a schlep, right? People are doing airplanes with signs in the sky and putting up hot air balloons and all the, BNY with their massive boardwalk and their lifeguard booth. Like you have to show up at these things. So I credit Matt Middleton for reminding people that like brands matter. You have to be creative, and that truly is the foundation of everything else you do, right?
They've definitely gamified it with the sponsors. It's just like who's going to show up best, who's going to win this year. And I love that. It keeps it exciting and different every year versus other events where you know exactly what it's going to look like every
Right.
time you step into that event. But on your point around the brand, I could not agree more. The brand is the North Star of any organization, uniting it, guiding it forward. And I think sometimes I've seen in my career people struggle with why is brand consistency important, or why is our mission or our vision so important? And without there's no alignment.
Right.
You just have people saying different things and speaking different things, and that's confusing then for your target market.
Right.
And stories are so powerful. I completely agree. I think today's marketing, while it is so important, attribution, performance, data analytics is so critical to the success of any marketing organization. You have to take a step back sometimes and like, okay, well, why are we here? Why are we doing this? Why does this matter? And a lot of it, goes back to the advisor that's up at 11 o'clock at night, trying to get some paperwork done because he was bogged down in technology issues all day and
Right.
couldn't meet with his clients. And it's simple moments like that. Like, okay, that's our why. That's why we do what we do every day.
Yep.
And this week is the perfect example of rebalancing portfolios is very important in
Oh my gosh.
in
Yeah.
a turbulent market, and being able to do that as effectively as possible is definitely going to set you apart in weeks like this. So,
Is for sure. Okay. So Molly, the premise of the show, we learn better from our mistakes than from our wins. I think marketers probably know that better than anybody. So tell me and our audience here, what are we not doing today?
um, we are not going to hire experts and then not trust them to do what they do best.
Ooh, yeah. I like it. All right. Tell me more. Tell me more.
And that can go a couple different ways. I think, especially in marketing, the first way, the most obvious, is no one wants to work for a micromanager. Um, I love hiring people that are better at me than certain things. I love it. It's honestly one of the most freeing and success driving things of being a leader is find someone who's better at something critical than you are. And
Yep.
I can say that about my team hands down. They all have strengths that I don't have, and lean into those strengths and let them run with those strengths. And sometimes it's not always going to look or feel exactly the way you want. That is something that I see leaders struggle with. But did did it meet the goals? Did it meet or exceed the goals of what you were trying to do? Maybe it looked a little bit differently because they're not you. But I think that there's nothing more defeating, and there's nothing that's going to drive higher turnover of top talent than micromanaging someone.
Hmm. I
And
think
on the flip side, like, I don't know if you've had this in your career, but I've seen, being the front line to sales, the business. Sometimes everybody can think they're a marketer. So you don't want to be micromanaged in that sense either. You
yeah.
want your business partners to trust you and empower you. And when you show up at the table with this story and this data and this all these great recommendations, they're okay. Maybe they disagree about some things, but they need to commit, because that's why they've hired you. They've hired you to be that marketing expert, because it's your job to understand your ideal customer and connect with them better than anyone else.
Yeah, I think that's spot on. And you know what? I don't know if this will resonate with you, but what I find is that the organization, so keep in mind I have a view into 70 organizations right now. The organizations who have a lot of micromanagement and have a lot of people, and it doesn't have to be marketing, it's any area of the business, and who have a lot of people trying to play roles that aren't theirs, have imbalances in different ways. Like, for example, I see companies mostly that are constantly all over their marketing team that clearly should be focusing on sales, or their CEO should be focusing on business strategy, and their sales leader should be focusing on making sure all of their salespeople are telling the right story and using the marketing to their advantage, or supplementing the marketing with some hunter action. Like, I just find that when the business is in harmony, everybody is busy enough in their own roles to not have to weigh in, not weigh in. We want collaboration, but not try to drive other areas. I've seen that in my own career, and it's interesting going from that to a balance where like everybody's busy enough paying attention to their own stuff that it's harder to try to meddle in other areas. Does that make sense to you?
Absolutely. Yeah, I've seen that throughout my career. And I think it's important to remember that marketing is just one piece of the puzzle. It's not the whole puzzle. And sometimes you're like, oh wow, it bumps up your ego a little bit. Like, wow, we're important. Everyone's coming to us, or everyone has a thought. But at the end of the day, too, those distractions don't allow you to get done with everything you need to get done that you've committed to strategically.
Right.
And so that trust has to be there. And if it's not, I've seen it throughout my career, then marketing loses its flame. We almost kind of lose like a little bit of our rebellion because we're the team that tests, fails fast, learns, we pivot quick. And I would also say, I'm sure you were this way when you were CMO, but to everybody, like that, every partner, we're likely marketing's harder on ourselves than anyone could possibly be.
That's the truth. That's the truth. And you know what? It's funny. Like, I think that being a CMO made me tougher than maybe I ever wanted to be, because you almost have to be. Like, to be good in a CMO role these days with all of the demands and all of the responsibilities, you have to be somewhat tough, because you have to say no to things that don't help you get to your goals, which is hard in that role because you're essentially in some organizations seen as a service role. You have to um, keep accountable to the metrics that we talked about. The board wants to know the connection to revenue. Leadership wants to know the connection to revenue. So I don't know. I found that like I had to toughen up, because you you want to be creative and you want to have fun, and you got into marketing because you love storytelling and you love creativity and you love building brands, and then you find really quick that if you're going to be successful and have a successful career in marketing, that you are going to have to be laser focused on certain things, and that precludes you from maybe doing some of those things that you know, you can't otherwise spend time on. So I don't know how you feel. I feel like you have a little bit of that edge to you. Um, I feel like I look around and I almost know immediately when I talk to a marketer whether they can lead a team well or not, just because like you have to have conviction in terms of what.
Yeah. Resilience.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And I completely agree with you earlier. You said it's a thankless position. I couldn't agree more. Even if marketing plays a part in winning a deal, we're not the ones that get the glory.
No.
We'll cheer ourselves on behind the scenes because we can see the lead source and all the systems, and we
Yep.
can see the full lead journey. But we're oftentimes not the ones that are going to be up there rah-rahing when that happens. So
It's
it,
so funny. I had
yeah.
a client yesterday ask me like, "Hey, is marketing normally the voice of the or the voice of the company?" And I just kind of laughed, and I'm like, "They'd probably be one of the best voices of the company,
Oh,
but
yeah.
no, they're likely behind the scenes pulling all the strings to make everyone else look better." And I think that's another thing about marketing leaders is the best ones don't need all the glory. Like, I felt like I always enjoyed being behind the scenes getting this stuff done, because it was good enough that I knew why success was happening, you know?
Yeah, I think it's interesting going from like USAA, a really big company. You had to be media trained, to talk to any of the media. There were some very, very strict rules and steps to ever be on camera or in front of an audience. And
Yeah.
I've enjoyed Intelliflo having a little bit more flexibility because I have been able to get involved in more of that, just either interviews on site at Future Proof or talking with media for an article. So there definitely are some advantages with a bit of a smaller organization, but yeah, day to day, even as a leader and as a CMO, you've definitely seen this. The best leaders give the accolades to their team,
For sure.
not to themselves. So I mean, I wouldn't be anywhere. I wouldn't have a career without all the teams that I've been proud to lead throughout the years. And a lot of that goes back. I will trust someone on my team and I will give them full range, unless they give me a reason not to.
Right. Yeah.
And so I always go in with good intentions on that and definitely try to steer clear of any micromanaging, but happy to collaborate or help or talk through anything anytime.
So, as marketers are looking for their next gig and they're trying to figure out, like, is this the right role for me? Am I going to be hired into a situation where I have some autonomy, where I can make some decisions, where I'm hired to use the skills that I have? Like, what are they looking for in a company and in a leader to make sure that those are characteristics of this position and of the firm that they're joining?
I would encourage them to just ask directly. What you could ask if you're interviewing, say, with the person that's going to be your boss. You can't 100% get a truthful answer all the time in an interview, but what is your leadership style? How often will we interact or how often will we meet? How much autonomy will I have around XYZ? At least you made the effort to ask the question. Sometimes you don't know until you get into something, but I'd encourage then if you're meeting with people on your team to definitely ask that question.
Yeah.
Um, Ask your peers in the interview, hey, how, what's the process of rolling out a campaign here? It's something maybe that doesn't even touch on somebody's leadership style. And then watch and see, they're like, well, first, you have to do X, Y, and Z, and then you have to get these 5 people sign off. And that's probably not going to be a very autonomous environment for you to work in.
Right.
And there's going to be a lot of oversight. So I think questions like that it can help boil down to get the right answers. But you never know what a team is going to be like until you're part of the team.
Yeah.
And I would say throughout my career, there's no perfect company, team, leader. There's just not. You
Right.
have to look at the strengths. You have to look at what makes them happy and focus on that and deliver on that. And that's always going to be a change based on where you're at.
Yeah. And on the flip side, you have to deserve the autonomy, right? Like you have to earn it to some
Exactly.
degree. If you're coming in and you're a bull in a china shop from day one, you have to like think through, okay, this is a role that I'm in. I want to be able to do X, Y, and Z in this way because I think it can be successful. There are definitely ways of going about earning that responsibility and that trust that I think marketers need to remember. So it's a two-way street, right? Like the boss, the CMO, the head of marketing, or whatever department you're in has to be open-minded and has to have a mindset of, I'm going to hire smart people and I'm going to let them do their thing. But on the flip side of that, coming into new roles, I think you have to remind yourself that, like, hey, I need to earn the right to be able to have that autonomy as well.
I completely agree. You're not your new boss is never going to immediately trust you. You do have to prove that you deserve that trust and perform and meet and exceed those expectations. I mean, definitely I think one of my favorite things like of top talent is you can give them something almost vague to go do or a problem to solve. They don't really ask a lot of questions. They just go figure it out.
Right.
I mean, that is the biggest blessing to a busy leader that they could ever have.
Yeah, I think that's so true. I think back to my time at Orion. So when I started, Eric Clark was definitely leading marketing. The CEO was definitely leading marketing. So they had a marketing team and they had marketing stuff going on. But when I walked in, he was definitely leading. He was definitely calling the shots. And I remember thinking to myself, like, oh man, what did I get myself into? And then I realized, okay, how am I going to prove to him that he can step out of this and feel really confident over time? And obviously, by the end of my time there, like there were barely any questions asked, and we were just rocking. But I do remember that moment. So it doesn't matter who you are or what role you're walking into. Like you have to sort of gut check yourself on the situation and how do I go from where we are to gaining trust to taking the reins, like, and it's got to be like a thoughtful process because you're also in my situation it was also someone who was very smart, very good, very creative, um, and hired their first leader out of state and who wasn't in the office and all kinds of things. So I kept reminding myself like, okay, this is going to be he's going to need to let go, and for me to get him to do that, I have to there's steps involved in that. So I think thinking through some of that is there's a little bit of chess playing that happens to get your role wherever you are, whatever it is, to be what you want it to be. Before you complain about it, like think through like what are the steps I can take to make this, to shape this into something that's that I really enjoy and want to continue to do.
I couldn't agree more. Yeah. And yeah, like you said, you never know quite what you're going to get into until you step into it fully.
Right.
Even interviews, they're not going to give you 100% clear picture of everything. But yeah,
Right.
I love that. I always tell my team that too. Like, please don't bring me any complaints, bring me solutions.
Right. Right.
How do we fix it? How do we get past, the issues that we're having right now or the roadblocks in place?
Yep.
Um, I love that, but I've learned that from leaders all along. I had a leader at USAA, and I never brought a problem to him without, hey, here's 3 things that I recommend we go do. And, he was notoriously quick to the draw on his email, and he'd be like, okay, I like to go.
Nice. I al
So,
I always say to intentionally folks too, the worst thing that you could do coming into this role is do everything the way that we've done it before. Like, you need to come
oh, I
in,
love that.
you need to tell us how you're coming in from the outside, you have perspectives that we don't have, you worked with people we didn't work with. There might be better ways, and I want I wanna know what they are. And that's genuine, because this is my first time running an agency, and we're 4 years into this, but still I learn something new every day, and I'd like to think that it's because we hire good people and then they bring us great ideas. So I think that that's like as leaders, we need to remind ourselves like the worst thing that a really great person could do is just do what we tell them.
I love that. I think that was one of the best things I brought from some of the bigger organizations I worked for before Intelliflo is one, just how to find and hire top talent. It's always a little bit easier at a bigger company, just
Yeah.
bigger benefits, better pay structures, more career opportunities. But so what is that top talent looking for? And then just the strategic thinking and building a strategy and a plan and executing on it. USAA is insurance and financial services for the military, and a lot of the company is run like the military. So every year, in like it was September, October, I remember I had my first one like 2, 3 weeks after joining because I joined in September of 2017. Back in the day before they moved to an open office culture, we would the leaders of the product lines, which I was one, the marketing leaders, had to go in front of the CMO. His name was Wes Laird at the time, and his entire leadership team, and present our entire strategy, plan, channels we're going to use, why, all the rationale down to what the results are going to be. And they would rapid fire questions, and at the end, they would vote. yay or nay if your plan was approved and you got your budget. So that was the sort of pressure and mentality now that I'm going to bring to every single organization that I'm part of. Like, there's no guarantee this money is going to come and fall in my lap. I need to tell a good story and I need to know my stuff.
Right. Oh my gosh. Isn't it funny how like we take certain things with us? So the thing for me was in high school. I know this is like crazy long ago. And then we're going to wrap this up, Molly.
Last year, right? Last year?
Last year. Yeah, yeah, totally. So I had this communications teacher, and she would sit in the back of the classroom. She would make you give your speeches, and she had a tin can and pennies and a roll of pennies. And every time you said, you played with your hair, you fidgeted, anything that you did that was inappropriate and would take attention away from what you were saying, she would throw pennies in a can. So my whole life have this background noise, if I am not speaking clearly and articulately, of pennies hitting a tin can.
Wow.
And it snaps me back into shape in a minute because
Wow.
it's so funny, the things that stick with us. I think we all have them. There's always a couple of them. But for you going in front of the firing squad with your plan to get your budget, for me, it's this woman with these pennies. And so I think it's important that we take those moments and those lessons with us along the way. I think they shape who we are for sure.
PTSD, yeah, that kind of reminds me of like when my mom would scream down using my first and middle name.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I still shiver a little bit at that thought. So yeah, I can only imagine the sound of the pennies.
Well, now you're going to hear them. Now that I said it to you, I bet you start hearing pennies.
Oh, I will. I actually love that. It's a good visual to have when you're speaking or presenting.
Yes,
so
totally. All right. For those of you listening, I hope you enjoyed my talk with Molly today. It's always nice to connect with other marketers because we walk the same walk. And so this is really nice to have you. And just as a reminder, what we're not doing today is we are not hiring amazing talent and then telling them how to do their jobs. I think that that's a lesson that goes far beyond marketing, that goes far beyond wealth management, and is a reminder to all leaders out there that we all can learn something from the people on our teams, no matter what level they are. So Molly, I really appreciate you. I'm so glad that the universe finally let us get this podcast recorded. And
yay, technology.
Yay. And I
appreciate you too and the whole team at Intentionally. Y'all are amazing.
Awesome. All right. Well, we'll see you soon, Molly. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed today's show, subscribe to be notified when new episodes become available. And please consider giving us a 5-star review on Apple or Spotify. This podcast is sponsored by Intentionally, a financial services growth engine design consultancy and agency. If you want to learn more, please email me at kelly@growintentionally.com. Thank you again for listening, and check back to hear what we're not doing next.
The information covered and posted represents the views and opinions of the guest and does not necessarily represent the views or opinions of Kelly Waltrich. The content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only.